Today's the day that my new film, Am I Racist?, releases in theaters nationwide. This is the most significant moment in my own career personally, and a seminal achievement for all of the incredible people who worked on our film, starting with our director, Justin Folk, our producers, Sean Hampton, Brian Hoffman, Benyam Capel, Dallas Saunier, and of course the Daily Wire and the executive team, Jeremy Boring, Caleb Robinson, John Lewis, along with Ben Shapiro, who's an executive producer on the film, and in fact, one of the first people to see the original cut and give us notes on it. This film would not be what it is now without every person that I listed and many others that I haven't listed. I can't read through the whole list. You'll have to watch the movie and stick around for the credits to see the entire list. And by the way, you should stick around for the credits because, this isn't a Marvel movie, but we do have our own little post-credit scene that you don't want to miss. Anyway, the point is that this film was incredibly ambitious from the start. We knew what we wanted to do and what sort of movie we wanted to make, but we had no idea if we could pull it off, especially given my, increased profile and notoriety from the success of What is a Woman, and going out in that environment to try to do the same kind of film, but actually to do it in a more ambitious way. We were always a little bit unsure about how it would work. And someday I can tell the whole story on how exactly we managed to navigate all of the landmines and create the film that you can now watch in a theater near you. I will say that it took significantly longer than I thought it would take to make, and was even more difficult than I imagined it would be. When we finished filming, finally, about a year after we shot our first scene, the odyssey had only really just begun, because now came the time to take this unwieldy mammoth of a thing with all of its dozens of hours of raw footage and shape it into a cinematic narrative. Unfortunately, we have a brilliant artist for an editor in Marshall Lee, who made this painful process much easier than it had any right to be. We also have Justin Folk, our director, who knows how to comb through footage and find the story. He's brilliant at that. We also spent many cumulative hours in the edit bay and in screening rooms with Jeremy, discussing and debating every last detail of this thing. It was a painstaking and sometimes necessarily painful creative collaboration, but that's what's required to make something great. And none of us were going to settle for anything less than what we consider to be great, something that we could all be proud of, and something that lives up to our previous film. Sadly, though, not everyone involved in this film is proud of it, apparently. Some of my co-stars, the people that I share the screen with, have demonstrated, if you can believe it, some embarrassment about their role in the movie. In fact, quite tragically, 4 of the DEI experts that I interviewed or featured in the film have, in recent weeks, deleted their Twitter accounts. And they've run away from social media. A number of them have also denounced the movie in recent days. Kate Slater, the anti-racist educator, now infamous for discussing the racial implications of Disney princesses with me in the movie, she posted on Instagram this week that the movie is a piece of and she's going off the radar to avoid criticism from the angry white men who might come and criticize her after the movie. Meanwhile, one of the hosts of Race to Dinner, Syra Rao, who's featured in one of the pivotal scenes of the film, according to a report in the Post-Millennial today, condemned the movie during a Race to Dinner digital book club event recently. She warned people not to see it. She called it a fascist Nazi white supremacy film, and she claimed that she was conned into being in the film. As a con artist, of course, herself, she knows a lot about, being conned, though apparently not enough to avoid it happening to her. If we did con her, which of course we did not, for the record, we simply gave her an opportunity to appear in our documentary about anti-racism. And that's an opportunity that she was eager to take advantage of. And we did, in fact, make a documentary about anti-racism. We did exactly what we said. No conning involved. I mean, how could Syra Rao accuse me of being a con artist? Who does Syra Rao think I am? Syra Rao? Finally, just yesterday, Robin DiAngelo issued a statement. And it's lengthy. It is also everything that you'd want from Robin DiAngelo, from a Robin DiAngelo statement. Posted to her website on Thursday, her statement is titled, "About That Film, ... And here's what she says in part. Quote, "Back in 2023, I was contacted by a group who claimed to be making a documentary film called Shades of Justice about efforts to address racism in the United States. They plan to interview anti-racist activists, authors, and thought leaders in service of supporting the cause of racial equity. They offered me between $10,000 and $20,000 for an interview. I said, let's meet in the middle with $15,000, and I agreed to participate. I have since donated that sum to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund." Now, side note here, Shades of Justice is, in fact, one of the organizational names that we used, while we were making this film. What does Shades of Justice mean? It doesn't really mean anything, but we figured it's the kind of meaningless name that would resonate with the woke crowd, and it did. I'll also say that I appreciate Robin's generosity in meeting in the middle with just $15,000. She really gave us a deal. You see, it was a bargain. We talked to her for about 2 hours, 15 grand. It's about, a little over $7,000 an hour. She's very generous of her to only charge us that much. She continues, quote, "When I arrived for the interview, a few things felt off. The grips would not make eye contact with me, and the interviewer, who was introduced as Matt, appeared to be wearing an ill-fitting wig." Now, let's stop here again, Robin. First of all, the wig fit very well. It was a nice wig. That was an authentic wig. It was made from real human hair. I harvested the hair myself from a homeless guy in exchange for a Snickers bar and a bottle of Jack Daniels. Second, more to the point, you claim that you noticed I was wearing a wig the moment you sat down, and yet you still did the interview? In your version of events, okay, the crew was nervous and shifty, which they weren't, but this is what you're saying. And you come in, you see that, you sit down, there's some guy sitting there with an ill-fitting wig. Things felt off, yet, Robin, you still sat there and talked to me on camera for 2 hours. Whose fault is that? If what you say is true, then we can only conclude that you were willing to do anything just for the money, which is basically the whole point of the movie. So thank you for emphasizing the point for us. Reading on, quote, "Matt presented himself as someone new to anti-racist work and seemed earnest, and his questions did not come across as adversarial. By the end, however, things got weird. Matt asked what I thought about reparations for Black Americans. I said that I agreed with reparations, but that it was not my area of expertise. He then pulled up a chair and invited a Black crew member who went by Ben to sit down with us, took out his wallet and handed Ben some cash. He said that if I believed in reparations, I should also give Ben cash. While some Black people have asked white people to engage in reparations by giving directly to individuals, reparations are generally understood as a systemic approach to past and current injustice. The way Matt set this up felt intended to put Ben and I on the spot. Because Matt was pushing this on us, I expressed my discomfort and checked in with Ben to be sure that he was okay with receiving cash in this way. Ben reassured me that he was, so I went to my wallet and handed him my cash, and the interview ended." Okay, so let's back up here and review again your version of events. Robin, you walked into the room to do an interview with an organization that you knew very little about. Things felt off, you say. The interviewer was wearing a strange wig. Then the interviewer in this wig forces a Black man to sit down and receive cash reparations. You felt like the whole thing was a setup and intended to put you on the spot, but you still paid the reparations. Even in spite of all that, you still paid. That's your defense. That's what you're saying. Now, as for me, I don't want to give spoilers away for the film. I don't care how many times some of these spoilers have been reported by the media. I refuse on principle to officially confirm the legitimacy of any of the spoilers. Everybody will have to go to the theater this weekend to watch Am I Racist for themselves and see what exactly happens. But if what you say is true, if it is true, then it would seem to make you not only a fool, but a money-grubbing grifter, which again is sort of the whole point of the film. I will say that your assumption that my Black friend, Ben, was manipulated into taking part in this alleged reparations exercise is quite demeaning and infantilizing to him. No great shock coming from the woman who demeans and infantilizes Black people for a living. If this reparations thing actually did happen, as you claim, how do you know Ben was not a willing participant? In fact, how do you know that he wasn't forcing me to do it? Maybe I'm the innocent victim in all this. Have you thought about that, Robin? Continuing on, she says, after reviewing the sequence of events and discussing it with colleagues, I realized that they had lied about their agenda and I had been played. I spread the word on my networks. Unfortunately, last month I started receiving hateful and misogynistic emails. Some referenced the Daily Wire, Ben Shapiro's website, which announced that the film is indeed being released. It's not titled Shades of Justice, nor is it meant to support the anti-racist cause. It is a Borat-style mockumentary titled Am I Racist? And designed to humiliate and discredit anti-racist educators and activists. Their deception was carefully planned and well-funded. The interviewer was, in fact, Matt Walsh, a far-right provocateur, backed by Shapiro and Daily Wire Plus, and yes, wearing a wig. Am I Racist is not only about me, and I was not the only one who fell for their deception. Sadly, many of those being mocked are women of color. I've not seen the film, nor do I plan to watch it, so I don't know how they have used any of my interview or how they've edited it. But if you see clips of the full film, consider the source, Matt Walsh. So who is Matt Walsh and what is his and his backers' agenda? Luckily for us, he has clearly answered that question without shame time and time again. She then goes on to quote and provide a link to Southern Poverty Law Center's hit piece on me. They say that I'm a white supremacist shock jock, etc. All in all, much of what she says about me and the Daily Wire and our film is not true, especially when she claims that our film was well funded. In fact, this was a very low budget operation, at least by Hollywood standards. Borat, which she compares our film to, had a budget of around $18 million 20 years ago. Our budget was about 16% of that. Now, from a quality perspective, the film does look much more expensive than it is. Credit to our crew and production team, which is maybe what Robin DiAngelo was picking up on. And, I appreciate, once again, the compliment. She is, though, completely correct about one thing. She says that our intentions are to humiliate and discredit anti-racist educators and activists. And on that point, she could not be more right. That is, in fact, our agenda with this film. We have other things we want to do, too. We want to entertain you. We want to make you laugh. We want to prove that conservatives can successfully make a film like this, the kind of film that until now only liberals like Sacha Baron Cohen have pulled off or even attempted. We have many things we wish to achieve with this movie, but most of all, yes, we want to expose the so-called anti-racist movement. We want to humiliate and discredit these grifters. Or I should say, really, we want to give them an opportunity to humiliate and discredit themselves. That's what we're actually doing. And that is an opportunity that Robin DiAngelo took full advantage of, quite eagerly. She only has herself to blame. And you can see it for yourself, and you really need to see this for yourself. Because I tell you one thing, if you've read the descriptions, I can tell you it is so much worse for her than it even sounds in the descriptions. And you can see that all for yourself right now in theaters. You really don't want to miss it. If you'd like to see what else I have to say, you can access my full show by going to dailywire.com or by going to the Matt Walsh Show Twitter page. Hope to see you there. Godspeed.